right. You sure about that?
I mean, I always do anyway, so it's fine.
Okay.
Sometimes it freezes up when I have 2 videos going, but sometimes it's okay. Just depends.
Okay, there we go. So there's the live stream start on Blue Sky. Substack is, I believe, up. Can't confirm that. If we don't get a 4th.
Oh, it's already on.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, and we are, all 3 of us are there. That's amazing. And then let me post this. And then let me just confirm this. Okay, so the feral altar of the Druid, by the way, is the name of my Fediverse space deal. But all right, so welcome everybody. Another day in the life of some queer and trans people. I am, of course, Wendy the Druid. My co-host Brandon the Cactus Flower Elrich and Miranda the Poet. I think, by the way, Miranda, you will love at least one of the people that I mentioned in the digest today, because I thought of you when I was looking for inspiration. So without further ado, let's just go right into it. So Sunday, the orange shit stain orangutan blew up his Truth Social feed that he has the permissibility to fire Supreme Court justices who are not loyal to him. And if he doesn't have the legal justification to fire them, then what he does have is the right to pack the court with as many conservative judges as he can to ensure that they won't overturn him. Okay.
It's the lovely Banana Republic bullshit.
Yeah, it's more Banana Republic bullshit. But going into that, the number of queer churches and those churches that are establishing anti-LGBTQ policies is driving, like it would shock anybody, queer people who were members of those churches away. And I have a question about that. When we get to that position of the article, I'm going to ask that question because I really want to know. But anyway, and then FEMA. FEMA is so defunded that literally we're on the precipice of like 9 natural disasters that are going to kill 1,000 people, and the federal government has no way to respond because asshole has taken away all of that.
Yeah, and in as much as FEMA is still functioning, he's been approving disaster requests from red states and denying disaster requests from blue states.
Yeah, which makes it more fucked up. So I'll just go right into it. Frank O'Hara. Miranda knows who this is. You better.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to educate everybody, or do I have to do it?
Go for it. You have notes. You're prepared.
I'm not prepared. I said I was prepared. I just wrote all this shit. I just wrote all this goddamn shit. I didn't wait prepared. I don't know what the in memory of my feeling. Of course, Frank O'Hara was a poet, But I had biographical. Let me bring up my biographical notes now, so that I can adequately speak about this person. Come on. O'Hara, Francis Russell O'Hara, born in 26, died in 66. He's an American poet. And he was the curator of the Museum of Modern Art. And so he was prominent in New York City's sort of counterculture scene, considering that he died in the 60s. And the thing about his poetry that I always thought was kind of cool was he wrote poetry like he was writing a diary entry.
Mhm.
And so you agree with this, Miranda?
Yeah, so he was kind of one of the forerunners of a confessional style of poetry that was prominent in the 50s through 70s.
Right.
So his career is sort of the crossover period between modernist poetry that had been the establishment poetry since the 1910s,
Right.
and then in the post-war era after World War II, the radical societal changes that we underwent was reflected in the arts, and so it was a time for experimenting. It was a time for moving away from these meta narratives that were guided by the empires that collapsed with World War II, and more of a personal narrative and making the personal political and vice versa.
I read an account by Mark Doty about him, and Doty said that O'Hara, his poetry was urbane, ironic, like there was a celebratory lap around the victory lap around the building, and then even further still, wildly humorous.
Yeah.
And then, he wrote about material associations that were strange and bizarre, even maybe alien, to academic verse, which when you pair both of those together, there's an unusual amount of prose that comes out of that. Not to degrade O'Hara's writing, but I compare that to the dude that wrote Deathbed, The Bed That Eats People, which was a movie released in 1977. And that screenwriter, what the fuck? Here's the thing, Deathbed, The Bed That Eats People. It's about a bed that's evil and it eats people. And the whole byline in the story is there's a bed, there's a demon on the bed, the knight kills the demon on the bed, now the demon possesses the bed, now the bed eats people. And so
sounds like a movie you should watch when you're high.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yes. Well, unless you're grossed out by body horror. If body horror is not your thing, don't watch that movie.
Are you talking like Saw type stuff?
For example, I think there's a scene in the movie. I've seen the movie, I could say this. There's a scene in the movie where the protagonist laments the fact that when his hands went down into the bed ate them, and when he pulled his hands back up, they were skeletons. And so there's a point where he's sitting down and he's holding his hands up, and there's just skeleton hands, but they're moving. So if you're not into body horror, don't watch that movie. But from a writing perspective, there's one or two.
It's body horror, but it's not gore, bloody gore.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I could handle that much. I don't know.
I mean, look, if you can stand watching Manos: The Hand of Fate, which is arguably the worst movie ever made, then you could probably handle watching Deathbed, The Bed That Eats People. But here, my thing about that is this. In a contrast to O'Hara, as the guy that wrote it, okay, there's two possibilities. One, he had moments of doubt while he was writing it, or two, he never had any doubt. And I'd like to think that the guy had moments of doubt where he was writing it, then he got halfway through, and he was like, what the fuck am I writing? And then those went away, and that produced the screenplay. But what's more scary is the fact that and then the guy lays on the bed, and then the bed eats it. Oh, this is awesome. Like, that's even, the writing of that screenplay is scarier to me than the fucking movie. But anyway, but I digress. O'Hara wrote in his collection, Meditations in an Emergency in 1957, the grace to be born and live as variously as possible. And so, as a trans woman with what I would deem an exiled body, what the exiled body learns eventually is that the institution's refusal is always a statement about the institution, not about you, Miranda, as a person, not about you, Brandon, as a person. And so in O'Hara's case, he wrote from the inside a mid-century world that had no legal room for who the fuck he was, and they didn't give a shit. And he wrote anyway, variously with every cell of his being. The grace that he named wasn't granted. He just claimed it because he was there and he was alive. And so, the question then becomes, when did you understand that the version of yourself the institution wanted was smaller than the one that you actually were? Well, I have a very complex answer to this question. And the very complex answer to this question is I did not become aware that the institution wanted me smaller until I was well into the process as a queer person. I spent copious amounts of time being blissfully unaware, but it wasn't until the Trump administration rolled around, in 2016, that as a queer person, I became keenly aware of the fact that, this is going to suck. And not a little. And so then becoming a trans person in 2019, that made that awareness even more, which is why, and I read this to you guys before we started, was the response that I got from Ava on the article yesterday about, I'm trans, does that mean I'm allowed to call myself a mother? I doubt this of myself occasionally. Miranda, you should not doubt yourself of this. But Ava wrote to me, and she said, she's in response to that article because she didn't want to comment, she said, sometimes I marvel at the parallel paths I have taken with so many other trans people, especially when I read ones like the one that you put down into words in this email. We usually do the same things to ourselves due to society's pressures. So it isn't surprising that we compartmentalize in the same way. We come out, we go back in, we bury, we deny, we purge, we come back out, et cetera, et cetera. And then she says, then you mentioned 46 years. And I'm like, well, that's an odd coincidence because the age I was when I reached the tipping point was 2019. Of course, then she tells me she's also a software engineer, and are we all tech nerds? So This is a person. But her point is true. That question, when I realized that the establishment wanted me to be this big and not this big, wasn't until well into the process. I mean, pre-Donald Trump, I don't think anybody gave a two flying fucks about whether I was queer, trans, or otherwise. So, Brandon?
Me? When I was growing up, even like through high school, I may have had the desires that I was kind of squelching, but I don't think I really had the realization until I was an adult. And I guess the societal expectations were more, I don't know if it was, I guess partly it was societal expectations, but more familial and church expectations of who I was supposed to be. And that was very much limiting compared to who I realized I was. So it wasn't until I was an adult, and even then, I was trying to conform to those expectations, even knowing that they were different. There was a dichotomy between the two, but I still tried to perform those expectations while I was an adult. So throughout my 20s, even though I, dabbled and gave into my desires here and there and there and there, but I then eventually got to the point where I was like, you know what? It's just too confining. I just can't anymore.
Yeah, I mean, why would anyone think any other way? If you didn't have a choice, would you really think otherwise?
Yeah, I felt like I didn't have a choice for a while. There was no choice given. It was, this is the way it is, and you do this or eternal damnation or whatever,
Well, and the cross accompanying guilt that comes attached with that. I mean, were you ever able to manage that guilt? Or, and if this is too personal, I completely understand. Do you still manage that guilt in that capacity?
Not, I mean, my family they're very good at the guilt trips. They, and it's passed down. I can see, like, my grandmother she was good at that, and my mom and her sisters, I can see it every once in a while. There's something. Just a few nights ago, we were at a family get together, and my aunt said something about like, oh, you never come visit me or whatever, and I'm like, well, I really don't want to. I mean, I didn't say that, but I'm like, I just didn't acknowledge. I didn't give into it. I didn't say, oh, okay, yeah, well, I'll come over sometime. I just didn't say anything. Like, yeah, you're right, I don't. Yeah.
I mean, I know, like, on Friday you missed the show because you were cooking to prepare for that event.
Yeah.
Can I ask if the event went positively?
Oh yeah, it was great and everything. There's just always a little something, somebody's there, somebody says a little something or whatever. It's like, oh, come on. But yeah, overall, it was great.
Well, good. Brandon.
Refresh me on the question.
You're gonna make me scroll up. When did you first understand that the version of yourself the institution wanted you to be was smaller than the one you actually were?
Yeah. So, like Brandon, I grew up in like a religious environment with a lot of like these are the roles that you're supposed to fulfill, and we're saying that God made those rules. Um, and so, I never, even from childhood, felt like I fit into that in any sort of way naturally. Um, but so there were like the tension was always there, um, and it was probably in my mid 30s that like the tension became a clash because it was like I've always done this thing. I've always been the good son. I've always been the good Christian man. Um, I've played the part, and I'm miserable in this experience that y'all said would fulfill me. Um, and the perspective of the church and family is one of like if you aren't fulfilled in that role, that means you're not fully in the role. You're like you're faking it. You haven't um, made it there yet. And it's like, well, I have been faking it, but not in the way that you think I've been faking it. It's like the faking it I was doing was denying who I really was. And so, I hit a point in my mid 30s where like um, that internal battle had to play out. I had to let it play out. And so, it was like I started with baby steps of like asserting more of my true self in little ways. And then that helped me, um, you know, then take the next step on my journey um, until I got to a point in 2023 where I was like, um, I keep trying to modify my role and push the boundaries, but not break the boundaries. And no, I fuck that. We need to break the boundaries and fully embrace who I am. And so that's when that's when I came out. That's when I started my transition. And um, the certain people in my family and a lot of people in my Christian community that I had been a part of. Once I broke those boundaries of their expectations, they just wrote me off. Like, oh yeah, okay, cool. The institution can't hold this person, so now I'm just gonna be like, not even going to pretend to care about the boundaries that they've established. Like, let them live that way if they want to, but I'm not going to.
No, no, and why would you? I mean, why would you? At this point, I can't imagine that I would ever do it. I can't imagine that you would ever do it. And let me just retroactively ask this question. Brandon, I pose this question to you too: is if you could go back, would you? No, right?
Not. I guess it depends on how far, because I wouldn't go back to like while I was living with my parents while I was in high school. I wouldn't go back that far because that would have been too. I was too vulnerable at that time, too impressionable. So
Right.
no, I wouldn't go back then because I don't know what would have happened as a result, as far as conversion therapy possibly, or being kicked out of the house, or
Well,
all that kind of thing.
I think from an ethereal element of that question, I think the core of that question is more: if you could go back with the knowledge you have now, would you, and how far would you go?
Yeah, and I think I would go back a little way. Like I would go back to college. College would have been a lot more fun if I would have come out.
People ask me that question all the time, and the answer for me to that question is no. And the reason that the answer is no is because, especially my teenage years, at 53, to go back to my teenage years with that. Here's the thing. I had the knowledge then. I was just too afraid to use it.
Yeah.
I had Wendy going on in the back of my head, and that she was always there. So my lack of understanding, if I had more, but here's the thing: if I did that, then I wouldn't have a child, and I would not give up my child for anything.
Yeah, I think that's a little different situation. Like if I had gotten married or something and had kids or something, there would be that. I think that kind of changes things. I think it would change things for me too. I probably would have the same answer, but since I'm not, I don't know. I would go back. I think at least to college and let that play out.
Right. Well, I mean that feeling is valid.
Yeah, and I have the same kind of thoughts that Wendy has. Like I've built a life with myself, with my wife, with our kids. And I know that like the person I am today, I'm who I am because of like the journey of me to this point. So it's hard to like say, oh well, 5 years earlier, 10 years earlier, and then start spiraling in my mind about time loops and paradoxes, all these like time travel, sci-fi ethics questions. So,
I mean, all you really need is a DeLorean, the flux capacitor, and enough roadway space to make it to 88.5 miles an hour, right?
Yeah, I think about that too, because you don't know if you went back and changed things, you could be worse off today than you would have been otherwise. So there's always that risk.
Right. Well, there's an important fact I think that you have to take away from that, which goes right into the next. It's weird when we have these discussions, you guys line up the next section of the discussion for me in such a fabulous way. I don't even have to transition to it by saying it. So Radcliffe Hall. We all know who Radcliffe Hall is, right? Brandon does not know who Radcliffe Hall is. Okay, so basically Radcliffe Hall was probably the first widely known trans guy. So mask, butch lesbian that lived as a man. And she wrote a book called The Well of Loneliness, which is a very difficult book to read. She authored it in 1928, and the story is about a character named Stephen Gordon, who is an upper-class English woman who is aware of her homosexuality in her early childhood. And so in the story, Stephen finds a way to fall in love with Mary Llewellyn while serving as an ambulance driver during World War I. So it's a romance story. I really would consider Hall's The Well of Loneliness to really be the first widely accepted, mass distributed sapphic fiction piece that's ever been written. But here's the problem. In the UK, they banned the shit out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and tried to prosecute her under obscenity laws.
Yeah, like very similarly to the way that the UK government had treated Turing. In Turing's case, they threw him in jail and castrated him because he was gay. Radcliffe Hall, it was the same. It was the same thing. And the sad part about it, The Well of Loneliness is a very sad novel. If you can't handle tragic queer fiction, don't fucking read it. Because ultimately, their relationship is destroyed by social isolation and rejection, which Hall, in the course of the novel, depicts as the inevitable suffering of inverts, a term that was used to describe people who were gay back in the 20s and 30s. And so...
Inverts?
Yes, inverts. That was a way to describe gay people in the 10s, 20s, and 30s. As a matter of fact...
Inverting the natural order.
Yes, inverting the natural order. As a matter of fact, Marlene Dietrich referred to Acosta as an invert while she was in bed with her. Acosta, who was a costume designer and makeup person in the 20s and 30s in Hollywood, bedded down a number of really hot-looking women. Marlene Dietrich was one of them. But more to the point, so Radcliffe Hall says, from The Well of Loneliness, you are neither unnatural, nor abominable, nor mad. You are as much a part of what people call nature as anyone else. And this is true. This is true. What remains of the institution, what remains after the institution refuses us. Not the hollow version that it finds manageable, but the one that it can't metabolize. Hall wrote the thing the court said shouldn't exist and left it out for every queer person who came out after it to read, needing proof that they were valid. And we are. I mean, we are valid. So that begs the question: what would you do differently tomorrow? I'll even take it a step further. What would you do differently tomorrow in my body, in my choices, and how I move forward? If I genuinely believed that I were exactly as much a part of nature as everyone else, if I believed what Radcliffe Hall said, what would I do differently tomorrow? And the raw, visceral truth is fuck the apology. Tomorrow I'd stop shrinking my voice. I did it over the weekend. Took the kids, dropped the kids off, and on the way back, the kids that live with their mom live in a very intolerant area, and drove back, went into Panda Express, my favorite fast food Asian restaurant. Sat down, ate. There were two guys that were sitting across from us, making faces, saying shit. Well, Kira got up to go to the bathroom, and I was sitting there, and the one guy said faggot, and he said sissy, and all this other shit. And I hate to quote a movie, but a wise man once said, "Death smiles us all in the face. All a person can do is smile back." And so that's what I did. They were standing there making faces, and I turned around and went, so I would stop shrinking my voice. I'd walk through the park like I own the fucking dirt. Because I do. I wear dresses that make my hips look like a goddamn miracle, not a mistake. I hug my kids without flinching, knowing my love is as natural as rain that happens outside. I would not, and I do not hide my transition. I don't hide my scars. I don't hide my wild, messy, beautiful, over-communicative, wordy self. I plant seeds where I can. I curse the weeds, and I laugh out loud. Nature doesn't ask permission to bloom, and I won't fucking do it, and neither should either of you. So, Miranda.
Yeah. So this is actually reminds me of some debates that I've been having recently, where people have tried to invalidate who I am because trans people are rare. So it's like rare equals abnormal equals bad, and it's that's something called the base rate fallacy. Basically, if the majority of something establishes normalcy, and then they try to extrapolate a moral framework from that. And so I've been responding with just asserting that rarity or uncommonness, atypicality, that's hard to say, doesn't disprove the validity of something. It just shows that natural variations are broader than the frameworks that we have to describe those variations. So it's you can call me unnatural if you want to, but trans people have always existed. Gay people have always existed. We have always been a natural variation of the human fabric, and I'm not going to apologize for that or shrink myself or be less of myself just because myself is different than what's expected. And Wendy, I wanted to say something about what you were saying about the dropping off the kids. And it kind of goes back to the beginning of our conversation and the question of trans women who have kids describing ourselves as mothers. You said that you dropped your kids off with their mother, and I wonder if a way that you could like challenge that would be like with their other mother, because you're their mom too. The K lines. So anyway, I'm just throwing
All
that,
right, I couldn't
throwing that
resist
out there.
dropping gay lines. I could not resist dropping gay lines. I had to.
Why would you? That's like
I never thought
gorgeous
about that.
mane. I love good hair.
How could you not take it that way, Brandon?
Yeah. Well, I just, it just never crossed my mind, I guess.
Are you having? Whoa, hold on. Are you having the Mandela effect?
The Mandela. What's the Mandela effect again?
The belief that something does or does not exist, and in actuality, it's the reverse. So the Mandela effect is that everybody thought that Mandela died in prison. He didn't.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he didn't die in prison. Didn't die in prison.
So we've talked about time travel. Now we're talking about alternate realities, and
yeah.
This is great.
Yeah. So gay lines. I mean, I'm sorry. When I was young, I remember even saying, like, seeing that picture and thinking, why are two boy lions getting on the ark? If there's going to be no more lions.
So after they got off the ark, did God have to trans one of the lions?
I mean, maybe.
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yeah. So, Brandon, differently tomorrow.
Yeah, kind of a little bit like what you were talking about in some ways, I guess. I mean, I would dress however I wanted, no matter where I was going, and I would wear makeup whenever I felt like it, no matter who I might come upon when I'm out and people I know or whatever. And I would probably flirt with more guys without being afraid that, like, oh, I don't know if he's gay or not. Will he get mad about it and that kind of thing? So, yeah.
Well, I would love to see a younger you hitting on somebody. I just would love to see that.
Yeah, it would have been a lot easier with the body I had then, I think.
There's a weird parallel that exists amongst genders. I actually read a book about this. So, okay, so I'm going to euphemize. I'm going to euphemize something that is mildly misogynistic, but at the same time, I'm going to fix it immediately by going back against it. So, there's this motif that every guy wants to see two girls at the same time, right? So get this.
Straight guy?
Every straight guy.
Yeah. Straight this head guy.
Brandon's like, that's the last thing I want to see.
It's like,
no, I'm not asking you to imagine it. I'm just saying that's a thing. Like, when a straight guy sees a lesbian couple, the first thought through his head is, wow, I want to know what happens in their bed at night. That's a thing. I mean, it's a thing. But here's the thing. And there's studies to prove this. So get ready for this, Brandon, because you're going to be in awe.
Oh, boy.
Cishet biological women have the same thing for two gay men. And it's infinitely more prevalent than you would imagine. And there's an attraction to it even further than that. And so the reason that you don't hear about it is largely because the patriarchy suppresses shit like that. And so women over the years are made to feel super guilty about it. But at its core, yes, every time, I guarantee you, more women than not, when they see a gay couple walk by, they start thinking about, oh, I wonder what that looks like in bed.
Right, and that's why we have like the big craze about heated rivalry. Is it's mostly straight women reading this MLM smut book or whatever, and and like, but a lot of that has to do with like how our society views sex as something to consume. And so, it's easy to look at other people and their sex lives and want to consume that vicariously.
So that leads me to a question that I was going to pose a little bit earlier in the live. And anybody that's in the audience, please express an opinion about this. Because I know for a fact it's true. I know for a fact that Miranda is going to immediately agree with me about this. And so here's my thing. So churches are ramping up anti-LGBTQIA narratives, and it's scaring away queer members of those churches and encouraging them to leave. All right. That's fine. And I am not going to commit an act of bisexual erasure by saying this, but what about all of the bi-swinger guys that are still in the church? And why the fuck aren't they affected?
Well, it's all about how they portray themselves. So they portray themselves as straight, but they're bi on the DL. So, they're fulfilling the social obligation of the structure of the church, and then just getting a little sin here and there, and then.
Oh no! I'm not gonna kid with you. The city of Ocala, Florida, is literally the swinger capital of the world, and taking it even a step further in the sexual strata is the strata of the cuckolding rationale. So like that's the cuckold and the hot wife. So the hot wife wants to, get tagged by usually a person of color, and the husband wants to sit there and watch. But very oftentimes the husband even offers to fluff the person who's going to. And I'm sorry, but I got Brandon, I want your opinion. Is a guy with a dick in his mouth, is he bi, or is he just situationally straight?
I mean, having a dick in your mouth is a little bit gay, at the very least.
And then even from that perspective, watching your wife get banged by somebody else, and you're turned on by that has to be a little queer, right? Has to be.
A little bit.
I mean, okay. I mean, I just want to be sure that, I just want to be sure I was clear about that point.
It's the same thing as like there are guys in the church that get drunk on the weekends or whatever, get drunk throughout the week, and then go to church and act like everything's okay. It's still a sin for them to get drunk, but they don't, the church leaders aren't going to the bars and telling them that they're in the wrong and they need to leave the church or whatever.
Brandon, quit fucking around with the emojis. Can you stop that?
Right.
Well, yeah, but then further question, and again, This is going to be one of those things. I'm going to say this, and then somebody's going to refute me, I'm sure, but that's fine. But okay, Christian women who go to church and they wear pants, why are people not accusing them of cross-dressing?
There's
Well, that's
not
because
really
the church you go to.
Yeah, there's not
Because
not
there
a
are
good
churches
answer
that
there.
are that restrictive.
But yeah, but I mean, does your mom wear pants, Brandon? Your mom's pretty
Yeah.
evangelical.
Although when we were going to the Pentecostal church when I was growing up, she wore pants at home. She didn't wear shorts like when she was mowing the lawn and stuff like that. But anytime we went to church, it was always a dress.
That's still cross-dressing in its purest sense of the word.
Oh, I know. I know. It's she didn't. She was doing it mainly out of, I think, respect for what they believed about women and how they should dress, because she didn't necessarily ascribe to that herself. So she's like, well, when I'm at home, I'll wear what I want. But when I go to the church and everybody else believes this way, I'll respect their beliefs and wear a dress, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I'll amend my behavior for the institution.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever I'm involved with activities that involve the institution, that's fine. But when I'm not inside the institution, fuck it, I'm going to sin like a motherfucker.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe, I mean, not just the way they dress, but eventually we stopped going to that Pentecostal church and went to a Methodist church for a while. But that might have been one of the reasons. Like, okay, well, I guess we're not quite aligned with everything that they believe, as strict as they are.
Right. Because how strict could they possibly be if they were or were not observing or not observing whatever rule at whatever random fucking time? Whatever random fucking time. Okay. Well, so that leads into the third topic. Gertrude Stein. All right, Miranda, tell everybody who Gertrude Stein is. I took like the last two.
All right, so she was one of the leading modernist poets, early 20th century. Of course, this is a time of huge change for women's rights, women's representation in all parts of society, and there was very much the idea of she had to prove herself above and beyond other poets who were working during that time. But she did, because she's an incredibly gifted poet. But she was also queer. She was also Jewish. Part of all of these out groups, but asserted herself and her artistic voice despite that. And I highly recommend reading her work.
Yeah, Stein's work is seminally important in my opinion. The one you read, I think, or the one everyone tells you to read, is the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. And Alice was her life partner, which, by the way, Stein wrote that in the voice of Toklas. And I consider it to be a literary bestseller. It is seminal fiction to read. In 37, she wrote everybody's autobiography. And in that, like the paramount thing you take away from that is let me listen to me and not to them. And so when you're understanding that institutions hold together only as long as the people inside them do their jobs honestly, and that's true. In the case of the current administration, they're not doing their job honestly, which means it is destined to fall apart and quickly. I mean, literally, earlier in the week, like 2 Supreme Court justices who were put in their positions by the orange shit pantser sided against him and said, fuck you, you can't tariff people, which now has caused $139 billion in reparations that will need to be paid to people that paid against those tariffs. And so when that breaks...
to companies that paid those tariffs, the consumers who paid the increased prices still got fucked.
Yeah, the consumer still suffers, but the corporations take that money. But when that breaks, when the system breaks down and reveals what it really is, not a neutral vessel, but whoever controls it becomes aware. Stein didn't wait to be legitimate. She listened to herself and she kept writing, the same as O'Hare, the same as Hall. The reckoning is not the end of the work. And so, I won't ask either of you this question. I'll just start my closing with it because we're right at an hour. And the question is, continuing with the previous question, what would you do tomorrow? If you stopped waiting for the institution to validate the version of yourself that it's never willing to see, because it won't see it. Having a judge tell Trump that he can't have trans kids' medical records from WPATH, like Trump tried to attack a WPATH, and no, you can't have that. You can't destroy those lives. You want to, you can't. Fuck you. And so my answer to that is, what would I do as we wind in the downward direction? I'd burn the fucking waiting room. Tomorrow, I stop begging the church, the courts, the patriarchy to sign off on my existence. Because fuck all of those people who would tell me that I'm invalid, who would tell Brandon that he's invalid, who would tell Miranda that she's invalid. I'd heal with my hands. I do that already. Not their permission slips. I'd take my trans body to the altar of the earth and consecrate it myself. Maybe humping the ground in some random way or another, or begging the earth to top me in some auspiciously sexy way. It'll never happen, but But no more waiting for a seat at the table that's already been set to try to starve me as a person. I build my own damn feasts. I feed my kids. I feed my community. I love the people I live around. I love the people that I'm with. And so validation is a myth. Survival, that's real. I'm already whole. And if anyone doesn't believe that I'm whole, like the 2 fuckwads that were in the Panda Express yesterday that decided to say all that shit to me, guess what, motherfuckers? I'm here. Still here. Say what the fuck you want. I'm already whole. Kiss my ass. With that, Brandon, do you have anything to close?
Not so much, I guess. I mean, I told you the other day that I was going to be interviewing the owner of a shop in Kansas City, and so we've scheduled that for tomorrow morning. I'm gonna go to the Hula Hoop in Kansas City. It's a sip and shop, vintage clothing store, queer owned shop, and I'm gonna talk to the owner and just kind of show you around the shop and ask her or ask them. I don't know what pronouns they go by, but ask them about the shop and everything. And it's going to be closed during that time because they have limited hours. Just I think they just right now they just do like one weekend a month or something like that. But I'm going to go during off hours, so there's not customers around and everything. So I'm meeting them at 10 a.m. So I can't say exactly what time we'll start, but somewhere around then. So hopefully I can get people to come in and watch. I think I'd like to, promote the business and everything.
So we'll tell you when you get a go live link or whatever, give it to me like an hour or 2 hours before, and I'll spray it all over the Fediverse.
All right.
I will encourage Fediverse participation.
I'm also going live tonight with Dan Hass. He's a queer humor writer. He's on Medium and Substack. He's never been on live video before, so this will be his debut doing that.
Oh, he's a humorist? You should bring him on the show.
Yeah, well, yeah. He like I said, he's never been on live video before, so we'll see how he likes it and if he wants to keep.
I would love for somebody to be on the show that's way funnier than I.
Yeah, and it's not me. I'm not funny.
Oh no, honey, Miranda, it doesn't get any more queer than you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking 1930s speak. Forgive me. All right, well, cool. Miranda, do you have anything?
Sure. My sign off will be yourself, love yourself, even if nobody else does, and love the people around you. Bye.
Bye, Miranda. Brandon.
Oh, I forgot the sign off we were supposed to.
Yes, it's a graduate.
Whatever, I forgot. Okay.
No, that's completely okay.
See ya.
I love you, Brandon. Yes. Oh, well, Onyx isn't here, so or if Onyx is here, she's watching. But no transphobia, no homophobia, no xenophobia. Treat people nice, do good things, do good acts. Subscribe to the network. We're all struggling writers. If you read our stuff, click on our advertisements. They pay us. They cost you nothing. Fuck ICE, fuck Trump, and I hope the motherfucker dies tomorrow. With that, we'll tell all of you good night and good luck.